Hi, this video is pertaining to the starter replacement on a 4.7 liter Toyota Sequoia or Tundra. This is a 2001, and I tried going online, finding a video that would give me some guidance like I have for so many other projects, and I came up empty. One guy said, don't do this, and the other guy had a video that didn't really show it. I had this apart last night, put it back together this morning. I got the starter out with a little bit of a hassle. The guys at the local Napa store really helped paint a picture for me when I didn't have it in my hand, to know that there wasn't 3 bolts holding it in, only 2. And it's about an $80 piece with an $80 core charge. I think they really want it back. I will give you a broad overview of the steps required to take it out, and then I'll show you some particulars. It's not incredibly difficult. It's not impossible. It is difficult. It's not impossible. You don't have to buy any specialty tools or anything that you wouldn't have in your normal toolbox. And there's a few little tricks that I'll help you with. And I don't take it down as far as one of the videos says. I was able to get my small hands between the firewall and the back cooling rail, which goes from side to side, to get to the bolts that held the starter on. So one video says you got to take that apart, and I don't feel you have to, because I didn't. So let me get down to the basics first. Here's the starter. Let me hang my light back up here. As you can see, I got other projects going on. Got a broken drive shaft on that one, so you got to be a little handy to do this. The starter sits in there just like that, underneath the intake manifold right here. It sits in the base of the V of your V8. Intelligent engineering, pain in the butt to replace, but after 245,000 miles on my Sequoia, I guess I can't complain too much. The dealer wanted $1,000 to do this, and you know, at some point you're like, cut bait and run. But I thought I'd give it a go. $1,000 into a truck up north like this, you could have just let it go. Here's what we got for the bolts holding it in. Now I'm facing it opposite of the way it is. There's a bolt, there's a casting in the V8. Let's say this is the V8 right here. There's a casting that goes across the back wall of the block. This sits up against that wall in the V8. One bolt coming in this way and this way. You can get a ratchet with an extension or a deep well socket onto each one of those heads, and you can loosen them, and then as soon as they're loose you can take them out by finger. It's not that bad. Now the problem with it was, and I didn't know that I thought there might have been a third bolt, because this thing was not budging. And so I beat on it with a rubber mallet. I beat on it with a regular hammer. And that's when I chased down to Napa after they couldn't paint me a good enough picture, because he said, oh, there's 3 bolts. This third one holds on the plastic case for the wire coming in to your hot lead right here. So there's a plastic case that is not part of the casting, and that's all that is for. So when he said 3, I had to go down and get it to just make sure that my starter was ready to come out. As you can see, it was staying engaged, making a horrible sound. It was time to come out, and it was a tough job. So before we get into that, first things first, I took the hood off. 4 bolts, 2 quick clips on the, pop these off with a screwdriver right here, just back them off, take out the 4 bolts right there. Have someone help you lift the hood off. I just put the hood on top of the truck and kept it out of the way. Got a pretty packed garage here. I don't have an extensive set of tools. I use basically 13 millimeter, 14 millimeter, 12 millimeter, 10 millimeter, a few extensions, a couple regular screwdrivers. That was about it. 1 or 2 open-end wrenches. So it didn't require much by way of tools. Big picture, hood's off, positive, take that off. We don't want to spark anything. Took this off right here. Well, took this off first, then this. Underneath here we have the what would you call it, the not the carburetor, with the butterfly, whatever. I'll call it the carburetor, even though there's probably a better word for it. Sorry about that. And then we took off the intake manifold. So those were the steps: battery, hood, this connector here, this air intake with numerous hoses. Took off, of course, this first. Took off the carburetor. I'll call it a carburetor. And then the intake manifold, then the starter, and put it back in opposite order. Let's get into some particulars here. Bolt here. You can see, let me get my light again. You can see the different hoses down there. It's all pretty self-explanatory as far as taking them off. The two screws right there to take off the air pipe. Probably a better word for it than that. Sorry, I'm using a light bulb here so you guys can have good lighting when you see what I'm talking about. I went ahead and took off the shroud, or the 4.7 cover, just to give you a little more detail. So again, after you take off the air intake tube, it's self-explanatory what needs to come off of this before you can actually remove it. It's all pretty much out in the open. And then you move on to the, we'll call it a carburetor. It's not the best name for it, but you have a bolt, a nut there. You have one down in there, and then down below you have two bolts. One there, and if you can see it, I'll get a good light on it. Down in, kind of tough. It's down in there. Two bolts. Go ahead and keep them off to the side. I used that tray over there as a nut and bolt holder. Just turned it upside down over there. Worked out pretty good. That'll slide off. There are various plugs to remove. Again, pretty much self-explanatory. A few hoses to remove. Everything's there. I went ahead and undid this nut right here, and when everything was off, I took, again, the carburetor and set it up over on the top of the firewall over there. Seemed to work out pretty good. Got it out of the way. Now we get down into the meat of it. You can, I'd like to point out one more thing. Connected underneath, when you go to remove this carburetor, there is a hose, small hose about the size of your finger, that is connected to part of the cooling system. From the carburetor to the cooling system, you have to remove that, and it pays to have another piece of hose about the same diameter but longer to go ahead and put on to that fitting to stop the coolant from leaking. It doesn't pile out, but it's a steady little drip. So I just put a piece of hose on it and kept it propped up over here, and that was it. I didn't plug it, I just put a longer hose on it. During the course of doing this project, when I disconnected something, I kept my smartphone with me, and when I would undo something, I would take a picture with me pointing at it. Click, 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 etc., etc. There really was no clicking sound, but you get the point. That way, when it would come time to put it back together, I had a recipe for going backwards. Turns out I didn't need it, but it was nice knowing that if I felt lost, I could go back and redo my steps in reverse. So you might want to consider that. Now we get into the meat of this. Once you have this stuff taken out, again, it's just disconnecting, moving out of the way. We get down to the fuel injector rails and the wire harnesses on either side. You got one over here and one over here. Those plug into both. There's wires coming off of these main harnesses. They plug into your coils, and then they plug into your fuel injectors. Okay, go ahead, disconnect those. You don't have to do the coils. I did it because I had plans on lifting I was going to do it different, and I decided when I finally did get this off, I realized I did not need to take them off of the coils. So, but you do need to do the fuel injectors. Then you're going to pull these wiring harnesses just off to the side a little bit, and you'll be able to lift the whole rail with the injectors up once you get everything disconnected. Look closely to make sure you don't have to take anything off of these injector rails that can be moved with the manifold. Okay, these hoses, nothing there, up out of the way. Take off these. This screw here moves this stuff out of the way. This hose comes off, this hose comes off. These hoses stayed just on top. Okay, I know it's a lot, it looks like a total mess. If you just do it piecemeal, one at a time, document what you're doing. You may not even need the documentation, nice to have. Okay, when it comes time to take off the manifold, it was, you're up on your bumper, it's kind of awkward, you're leaning. I took the skim board there. If you have a chunk of 2x6 or 2x8, I just took the skim board and put my flashlight away and rested it like that. And then I kneeled. I rested it like that, and then I kneeled up on here, and I was able to look down on the bolts holding the manifold to the block. It was easier than trying to get my body up over there without anything to support me. That worked out pretty good. I had just a ratchet strap. I had the truck pulled in far enough with the hood off, and I used this 2x4 ceiling support or roof support, whatever, with a ratchet strap right there over that 2x4. I put it down through here, pulled it out the other side, and I didn't use the ratchet function. I just put the strap over the hook hanging here, and I was able to pull down on the strap, and that lifted the whole thing up. And then I just kind of like tie a little loop to tie it off right here until I would move some of the stuff out of the way, pull it up a little higher, and when you go to take this off, you have, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe you have 5 securing 2 nuts on either end, 1 nut down there, 1 nut down there, because there's a stud coming up out of the block for alignment and also to hold the intake manifold gaskets. So you have 1 stud, 2 stud, 3, 4. You can look down and see them. And then you have 3 bolts, 2, 3. And they are all 12 millimeter. The bolts have a funky Torx type of indent in them. You don't need to use Torx. 12 millimeter works fine. And then I just used a magnet after it was loose to go down there and pull them out after if my ratchet wouldn't bring them up. Set them in the tray right over there. And now we're ready to go ahead and lift this out. Again, if I'm missing some things to disconnect, you'll figure it out. Important thing is getting off your fuel injector clips carefully and pulling them. You're going to find that the protective, oh, there goes my skim board. The protective cover on these clips is brittle and it'll flake and fall off. Be sure to use a shop vac. When you get this manifold pulled up and out of the way, again, pulling it up and out of the way, that was key. If you have a cherry picker, hey, great. That would help because you could certainly pump it up a little easier, but you don't need one. Even if you didn't have a 2x4 overhead, you could, with enough little leverage, go ahead and lift that out of there, but it certainly was easier with a strap. Okay, so, and again, like I do with videos, go ahead and pause this, go back, if you need to do it step by step. You got this lifted up. Now you got that starter lifted up and I swung it out of the way. Now you got the starter sitting in the V of the cast block. Alright, 2 bolts. Like I said before, it'll be laid out before you. Now is a good time to get your shop vac, vacuum all the sand, debris, I even put a narrow attachment on my shop vac, and I went down into the intakes right where the valves are, and I sucked out some of the debris from the as you can see, these the covering on some of these wires, again, very brittle. It broke off during this. Well, this, 16 years old. Looks like I gotta put that clamp back right there. Glad I'm making the video. Vacuum everything out. Get it nice and clean so that when you start moving stuff around, you don't put junk down into your valves. And you got the starter there. Get your ratchet down in the firewall. Extension coming this way. Go ahead and loosen those 2 bolts. You'll be able to feel them. You'll be able to see them with a flashlight once you're, down in there. And take the bolts out. Now you have this starter sitting there with a gray plastic bolted to here. Take out that bolt right here. And then, Isaac, I'm making a video, please. And then it's connected to your power here. It's hard to undo this. It's hard to get this disconnected with it still bolted to the block. So just leave that for now. Take those bolts out. This casting right here is into the block. It's aluminum into cast iron, and it was a pain to get out. I put a little penetrating spray down there. I beat on it, worked it back and forth. Finally, it came out. It made you wonder if there was a third bolt holding the damn thing in. It was just after that many years, it had gotten a little corroded into the block. So work that starter back out. Go ahead and turn it. Now you have a cooling pipe. You can see it in other videos. You have a pipe going from the front to the back, which sits right next to the starter. It's not in your way. The back manifold underneath this, the back cooling manifold that goes from one side to the other, again, not in the way. I didn't have to remove any of that. I didn't lose any coolant when I did this job, except for whatever little dribbled out from the connection from this carburetor to the coolant section right down there. To disconnect that, go ahead and pull this off the studs, because this is a nut here, okay? Pull this off the studs, tilt it, unclip it. That's all there was to that. Pull off that hose. So you get that starter out. Now you can turn it. Now you can turn it a little bit. Pop the gray protective cap off of here. I think it's a 13 millimeter. And go ahead and just use a 1/4-inch drive ratchet. Take that off. You got a plug here. The block, the temperature plug, sensor plugs, you can leave those in. And go ahead and remove your starter. Put it in reverse method. Just go ahead and grab the new one, put it in reverse, tighten it up, and do everything backwards. I did not get new intake gaskets. I didn't get a new carburetor gasket. It cost me $80, again with an $80 core charge. I will be taking this back as soon as I get done with the video, because I thought it'd be helpful for you guys to see it. And thankfully, everything worked when I put it back together. So it's my turn to put in a video and help everybody else who has helped me. I hope it helps. I would like to add one final comment, an important step that I forgot. On the back of the driver's side fuel rail is a banjo fitting. It takes just an open-end box wrench to remove this fuel device. I'm not sure exactly what it's for, but this hose does not pull off. You have to loosen this nut, unscrew this item right here, and be careful. There is a top washer and a bottom washer, so be careful not to lose those. And you can set this hose up out of the way, and then I would just screw that back into the rail without the banjo fitting on there. This hose does come off, but there'll be a little gas that comes out of there, and I wanted to just let you know that you cannot pull this hose off. You have to undo this device right here with an open-end wrench. Thought I'd throw that in there. It's an important step.